Ladies and gentlemen, we are now starting the roundtable discussion on Supply Chain Management 5.0 Readiness and Impact. I request Mr. Alok Mukherjee, former Chairman ABB and FLACT India, to chair the session. The panelists are Mr. Odhip Nath Palchaudhuri, Chairman and Managing Director, Bama Lorry and Company Limited; Dr. Pinaki Dattagupta, Whole-Time Director, Tuaman Engineering Limited; Dr. Indranil Chatterjee, MD and CEO, Chloride Metals Limited; and Mr. Ashim Kumar Moitro, formal additional member, Traffic Railway Board. I request Mr. Alok Mukherjee, Mr. Odhip Nath Palchaudhuri, Mr. Pinaki Dattagupta, Dr. Indranil Chatterjee, and Mr. Ashim Kumar Moitro to take their seat on the dais. I also request Mr. Abhijit Mitra and Dr. Ashim Ray to escort them to the dais. Okay. Welcome all the dignitaries on the dais. Now let me introduce the chairman of this session, Mr. Alok Mukherjee. Mr. Alok Mukherjee graduated in electrical engineering from Jadavpur University. Mr. Mukherjee is also the chairman and member of the governing bodies of several technological and management institutions. He was the director, corporate at ABB and chairman, FLACT India. He was also the chairman, CII, Eastern Region, president, Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Mr. Mukherjee is a very active and always provide guidance and encouragement in developing knowledge pool of the country. I now request Mr. Alok Mukherjee to conduct the session.
Very good afternoon. No, it's 5 minutes till to 12, so it's just morning. We can still say morning today. Firstly, I must say that I have to apologize to you because the simple reason that it has been delayed and it's clashing very badly with another thing, meaning I have to be at 1 o'clock in Dalhousie Square, Bengal Chambers AGM. So I have to be there. So the whole thing was supposed to be 11 to 12, which was all right for me, but unfortunately that was not so. So I in my absence, Abhijit will be the moderator. I'll start the whole thing, and then probably I take leave from you. I beg your pardon. I apologize, whatever the verbs are for this. I am very sorry that this has happened like this, but they will not miss anything. Moderator and chairman is like a cherry on the cake. Looks nice, but not really very necessary. So you will not miss me, I'm sure. All right. The person who lost most, including the war, in absence of a good logistics, is probably Napoleon. That's why Napoleon has said that the amateur discuss tactics. The professional, they discuss only diagnostics. They discuss only logistics. Coming from a man like Napoleon, you can understand what is inside the logistics. So they say that good or bad logistics can win or lose wars. It is true that the realization of this has come to us fairly recently. Excellent products have been known to be totally useless at the site because of faulty or no attention to logistics. One glaring example is that of cold chain. We are losing millions of rupees worth of potatoes and all this just because you don't have a perfect cold chain. If we stop for a moment and think, everything in the world stops when logistical activities stop. Just think about this for a second. You will agree with this, I'm sure. The implementation of Industry 4.0, we are talking mostly within the industry, Industry 4.0. So I'm very glad to see that, you want to say something? No. I am very glad to see that SCM, supply chain management, is one step up forward. We are in industry mostly looking us to be sort of compliant to Industry 4.0. And that also there are very few companies in the country. And just like he showed, SCM 5, I think they have at least 10 companies there. I don't think we have 10 companies in Industry 5. Industry 4, we have quite some companies. And so it must go step in step. From Industry 4.0, everybody expected that supply chain must be according to 4.0. And then again, when it is Industry 5.0, everybody already expects that it must be SCM 5.0. So this whole thing is actually connected with industry. Naturally, industry expects a lot from this supply chain management. The movement has grown quite a lot to encompass the industrial enterprise, and several smart technologies have been developed. Actually, everybody in industry or in supply chain management normally started with IoT, because that is easier. But today, it is also very rich data analytics, cloud computing, using RFID, and robotics. AI, machine learning, blockchain, mobile technology, and a host of other technologies. COVID-19 has given us a lot of sorrow, but also it has given us to learn, where the whole thing of Zoom and others, we have learned because of COVID. Otherwise, it would not have developed that much. I know that in a company, an expert employee, they are used only for configuring a complex order management process, and the junior level people are implementing that process. And therefore, they have been very successful in their process of supplying to their customer. I would note that there's a lot that I wanted to say, but I should not make it delayed, because I have already complained about the fact that it is delayed. So one major thing, the difference between SCM4 and SCM5 was shown by the gentleman. But one major thing is the Industry 4.0 was mainly based on robots. But in Industry 5, in Industry 5.0, just like SCM 4.0, it is mostly using COBOS. COBOS is collaboration robot. As you know, that they work side by side. People and robots, they work side by side. So I would say that the Advance in Science and Technology Act as a gatekeeper of a sustainable future. And this is when the messengers and the gatekeepers are not in synchronism, the flow of information is bound to stop and bring about a chaotic turn. Many of you might have heard the name of Sun Tzu. He said the line between disorder and order lies only in logistics. I think nothing can be truer than that. Thank you very much for your patience. I would suggest, Abhijit, come here. I would suggest that there are 4 gentlemen here. The 2 gentlemen have not spoken at all. So you give them a chance to speak. And then you can take the other 2 gentlemen. Okay? Thank you very much.
Again, I've come back again here, and Mr. Mukherjee being, sorry, hard pressed for his time, we planned this session in a different way, but because he's leaving, he couldn't spend a lot of time here. So now the onus is on me to conduct the session. I'll try my best, but I'll definitely not be in the role of Mr. Mukherjee, like his experience. And so my idea is this panel discussion will break it down into one round discussion this way and another round in the reverse way, so that each one can take a break, can come back again and see what is being taught to the other 3 gentlemen. And what we are missing here also one speaker is Professor Datta. He is the Pro-Vice Chancellor of Jadavpur University. Our idea was also to integrate the educational institute with industry and also bring that in the discussion, on the discussion table, which if any one of you put a demand on the educational institute, what do you think the educational institute should do apart from the industry and technology? Feel free. We'll take this message back to the university, saying you missed this opportunity to interact with industry. So this is the input from the industry. So thank you very much. So we'll start from this. So your chance, please, Mr. Maitra. You start with what do you think about this entire future of supply chain that we should think about, how we should look at it, and what should. So we'll start from this. We'll go there, and then we'll come back again. Thank you.
Thank you. I did not expect that it would start like this because I have already spoken. But in any case, since I have been advised to give my point of view, see, supply chain management is a concept. The concept is as good as its implementation. If its implementation is not good, then there is no, the concept doesn't get off the ground. Now, supply chain management, as I said in my introductory talk, is, as I belong to the transport sector and we deal with nitty-gritties. So supply chain management has 2 aspects. One is the large companies, like the power stations, the steel plants, the cement plants, the fertilizer plants, and the smaller companies which deal with individual customers all over the country, like, say, medicine, like cosmetics, like tires. I was just discussing with one gentleman who happened to be in the tire industry at one point of time. So the supply chain logistics for these 2 types of industries are different. The large companies like power stations, their supply chain is not the supply chain of a company which has to deal with lakhs of customers all over the country. A powerhouse generates power and puts it into the grid, and that's it. I had the privilege of being an independent director with the West Bengal State Power Generation Corporation company for 6 years. And I have seen how a power company operates. Similarly, I have had the chance of being closely associated with the steel industry, because when I was on Southeastern Railway, there were 5 major steel plants on that railway. In fact, we used to joke that SER stands for Steel Enterprise Railways. So I have seen how the steel plants work, Bhilai, Bokaro, Tisco, Rourkela, Vizag. When you think of supply chain, because this is an academic forum of alumni who are in the industry, some in teaching, you have to segregate these two. The supply chain of a cement company will not be the same as the supply chain of, say, ITC. ITC produces hundreds of products, distributes its products all over the country. Its supply chain is totally different. So first get into the nitty-gritties, that when you are dealing with supply chain, what is the product that you are dealing with, what is the scope of your distribution, and where is your market. Automobiles are being manufactured in Chennai. Their main market is in the western part of the country and in the northern part of the country. We move in the railways, I was in the railways, so we move automobiles from Chennai to Bombay, and Chennai to Mumbai, and Chennai to Delhi. But it's only 10% of the movement. 90% of the movement takes place by road. And when you talk of supply chain management and you include road, which I had mentioned earlier, is controlled by thousands of small truck owners who run small companies, then the supply chain management becomes a different ball game altogether. Because to get hold of that data regarding movement, because please remember that for most of the commodities, the cost of transportation is 50% of the total cost of the logistics chain. So therefore, if you are going to deal with road transport and try to improve it and try to include computerization and big data analysis, you are welcome. But first, please think how you are going to capture that data in the first place, because that is going to be your biggest challenge. I think I will throw it open to the others.
Yep, before we hand over to Mr. Chatterjee, what I think, what you can really... Item mic. See, what I thought that in this particular session, that one need to look at the state of readiness of India and what we are planning for the future, okay? Because what is happening, what is normal, natural is happening. But how, particularly your industry, is a future electric motor vehicle is going to rely heavily on your industry. So how you look the supply chain, how you look at your customer, how you look at the component which are coming, how you look at the geopolitical scenario, China being considered as one of the key players in this sector. We like to know a little more about it if it doesn't impact otherwise.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm coming primarily from a company called Exide, which is a 76-year young company, which has been primarily making lead-acid batteries of different types and selling it to both domestic and industrial market. About 3 years back, Exide could understand that, lead-acid battery, the name itself speaks of hazard, lead and acid. Now, these type of hazardous materials need to be recycled, because in spite of 75, 76 years going, no one could find till date a real suitable substitute of a different chemistry which can replace lead acid, and we can go to a more greener battery of less hazards. So the issue is basically we have to heavily depend upon recycling these hazardous batteries so that nothing ultimately goes into the society. Based on that, it was thought that let us create a company which is a recycling, primarily a recycler, who will be recycling these batteries, and the maximum amount of this hazardous waste can be recycled upon. Accordingly, Chloride Metals was created. This was roughly about 2 years back. Today, Chloride Metals is the largest lead recycling company in Asia. We had an advantage because it was primarily, out of the 4 factories that we have in India at present, 2 are absolutely new. So we could go for some of the state-of-art technologies, keeping in mind the requirements of Industry 5.0. Apart from getting the leverage of maximum recycling in terms of commercial viability, we had also kept the sustainability as one of the top things in our agenda, which is very, very important, as you can understand. So it's basically a completely green factories. I can tell the 2 new factories. In terms of that, earlier we were only recycling lead. Today we are recycling lead. We are recycling plastic. And we are in the process of generating certain salts from the lead sulfate, which comes from the battery paste. We also have a plan to find out if we can recycle some part of the acid, which partly we are doing if we can maximize that. So ultimately, nothing from this industry should go into the society which should have any negative effect as far as the EHS norms are concerned. We have also come up with a 6 million gigawatt hour capacity lithium-ion factory in Bangalore, which is in very advanced stages of commissioning. At present, we are basically exploring because currently the 6 million gigawatt hour, how it will, we are primarily tying up with the OEM manufacturers. So might be we will think of recycling of lithium ion also. And there also, considering the nature of hazards, so for us to go for an absolutely automatic plant with almost all aspects of Industry 5.0, say if even today if you go to any of our plants, whether it's Haldia or it's in Supa or something, you will find a substantial amount of exposure to Industry 4.0 aspects, I must say. It is very, very important because it's a hazardous industry and we want to ensure that the entire sustainability, there is absolutely zero compromise. So that is how we are taking up, and we can further take up the discussions based on any questions if it comes.
Hello. So now coming back to Dr. Pinaki Dattagupta. So I think while we are talking about recycling, we are talking about one of the concepts of 5.0 is also called sustainability, because that's the difference between 4.0 and 5.0. And in chemical industry, particularly in chemical industry, sustainability is something which needs to be looked into very seriously. So whatever light you want to throw on that particular aspect or anything that you like to talk about it, feel free.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So we had a very good, insightful journey from the inaugural session, and I am just trying to relate with the speaker, whoever is giving the insightful thought since the morning. I belongs to an industry. I am from Tuaman Engineering Limited, which is a EPC organization, which is one of the promising, fast-growing organization from the eastern region. So I am looking from the perspective of EPC industry, who are in the formation, who are an active part of the nation building, and just trying to get a charge from Mr. Chatterjee from the battery charger. Then I'm just trying to relate Mr. Moitro, because we are serving to a larger extent with the railway industries, We have been doing the wagon refurbishment. We are doing some sort of manufacturing with the setup of railway they are having. And we are contributing to a larger extent in the railways. And I got to know some data from Mr. Moitro, which is reducing the logistic cost with respect to the global standard. So in this industrial perspective, if you have to reduce the cost, the optimization, that is the real story of the transformation. How to optimize? Only just reducing the cost, we may not be able to optimize. So we have to add value. So value in terms of recycling, reducing, and reusing, probably which is a perspective of chemical industries. We have solved to a larger extent in the chemical industries also. We are an active part of implementation of 2 to 3 a bigger magnitude project for the chemical industries. So now for the perspective in the industry 5.0, which is in a very brief terminology, it is a collaboration of digital technological transformation with the collaboration with the human. So until unless people understand the use and the utility, probably Mr. Moitro was telling, the idea is there, implementation could be a problem. So whether the intent is there, whether the desire is there, probably before the session we had a break. So with a light net, please do not consider in a other way. So announcements is very clearly, we will have a break after this round table, but we have a strong desire to have a break for our own instinct. We had a break. So now we need to understand what is the desire. Until unless we understand desire is there, probably implementation will be a challenge. Whether the infrastructure is there, whether the readiness is there. So I'm just trying to relate with the perspective of the common people. So I have started my journey when people used to go to the bank. So there is a long queue, there is a token system. Until unless your token is displayed or called off, people will not get the service. So now people used to see the digital wallet. You need not to carry your hard cash in your wallet. So there is no threat of pickpocketing and others. So the journey, the transformation, while people in the earlier form, there is a huge resistance in terms of accepting this digital money and all. Now, in the common people, for a rickshaw puller or the kirana shopper people, they are preferring in terms of getting this digital transformation. Otherwise, there will be a long queue in terms of getting the changes and all. So this is the real perception, that paradigm shift to the extent of the common people. And the behavior is changing, and the change behavior is the direction towards the change we desire for. So until unless the people they accept and desire, the transformation and change cannot be there. We'll have a resistance, and until unless people understand by the process of change, they will not going to get any benefit. Until unless they individually get benefit, they will not going to accept the changes. That is the real story. Whether people see when the invention of this computer come, people, they are thinking there could be a chances of losing the job. The reality is visible now. The same way, if we see, if the digital transformation will reduce the people, it is not that. So we have to bring back our competency. We have to understand the old people like us. We have to understand what is the reality. If we are not updating ourselves in terms of the competency, probably the real transformation will not be there. If in terms of readiness, if the question asked for, probably the infrastructure, probably the competent workforce will be ready. The need is required from the top. Who is going to strategize the implementation process? The senior level people, the policy making people. So they need to understand they need to have the competency at least to a macro level. Otherwise, resistance will come from there and implementation will be a problem. So, same way, to be very specific, in the supply chain, the topics, which is contributor, I'll just consider to the perspective of EPC organization, we have lot of job which is directly or indirectly contributing more than 80% even. Even if we are taking the example of this wagon manufacturing or refurbishment, where we find to the tune of 90% material, the supply chain involvement is there. So if we can just correctly take up from the perspective of identification of raw material, then the conversion, then reaching out to these people. Again, nowadays the customer and the consumer behavior, they cannot wait for the reply. If you just say, I'll just come back to you, the somebody else will just take away the opportunity from you. So we should be ready with all the data, and all the decision-making process will be driven by the data. And the data, the bulk of data, without having the process and the technology, data management will be a problem. So without taking the forum to a larger extent, there will be a turn again, where I think Mr. Mukherjee has asked to touch upon the support system by the institution and all. In the written path, I just try to add something. Thank you very much.
Now we are coming back to Mr. Pal Chaudhary. I had a chat with him in his office when we started thinking about it. I know a little bit background of him. So he is not only, he has got a strong background also, okay, apart from being managing director, corporate managing director. And he is holding a large corporate under his fold. So you can choose your subject, you can choose your line of business, and please tell us, what do you think the state of readiness of India in this regard?
Thank you for this opportunity to choose my topic. But at the same time, you've talked about the state of readiness. And so I'll also kind of take a leaf out of Dr. Dattagupta's book in terms of relating to what he spoke, earlier speakers have spoken about. And he spoke about digital in terms of moving away, the whole thing about going to the bank now, digital, etc. So now the thing is that while there is no risk of the money being taken away from your pocket, but there is a serious risk now of the entire identity being taken away by somebody else. The risk in digital is on a different level, but that's also a very big risk. And I would like to take that as the topic of choice for me, because supply chain now, especially along with the physics. So earlier, your truck could have been stolen, theoretically I'm saying. But now, you don't know what is going to happen in case the bill of lading has been put on somebody else's name, or if you are able to reroute your shipment from A place to place B, because the world is extremely connected, especially on supply chain. And if I am to take the example of international movements, so, and also not only international, multimodal. So if your goods are going to go from, let's say, factory in Jamshedpur, it will come via, let's say, rake to Haldia, and from there it is going on a ship to Rotterdam. From there it is going to a plant, let's say, in Amsterdam. So there's so many movements happening, and each of those are connected via digitally through exchange of information. So there is a massive opportunity, and at the same time there's a massive risk because of this whole digital thing. So to answer the area, when you talk about the readiness, yes, India is getting ready. Yes, India is taking great strides in taking up, in the entire concept of Aadhaar, as well as linked accounts and mobile, that so-called JAM, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile, that has created a tremendous opportunity for inclusion. But all of that is subject to a big phenomena of risk. So now, what India is going to do, how India is going to secure its data, how India is going to create its own large language models in AI, all of that is going to create the base for how we are going to be able to take advantage of this. So yes, answer, we have a great opportunity in the digital world, but at the same time, there's a big risk. So we do need to create our barriers, make sure that the protocols and all of that are ready. Power doesn't get concentrated in few people. So there are many things that need to be done, and India needs to be wary in order to take advantage and at the same time be ready.
Yeah, I think there is a word of caution from you because we move fast and we don't know what we are moving with. So we'll come back to you again on this. Coming back to the Mr. Hashim Maitra, I will now put a different question to you, sir. What I like to know is that India is all the time is rapidly changing its transport system. And we have got a 4-lane program, then we have got a 6-lane program, then we have got a rapid vehicle movement program, interconnecting program, river connecting program, and then we have got freight corridors and this and that. So the whole emphasis is connectivity between point A to point B, whether it is people, whether it is goods, whether it is whatever you think so. So now also railways are also one of the largest organizations in India. Not only, most probably it is the largest network in the world also, Indian Railways, if I am not correct, wrong. Maybe Russia and then India, or when I read it, it was Russia most probably. Maybe now you have taken over because Russia is disintegrated. So coming back to the freight corridor project that you talked about, and now the formation of high-speed railway lines and the new technology that is being thought through, where the train will move on, not on the railway, but above the railway lines with a rapid transit system with a magnetic field. Do you think the India is going to look into that kind of a system where the people will be transported from point A to B in a pipeline, which I am not collecting the right word, and it is a magnetic system, okay, Hyperloop. And there was an experiment on Hyperloop. So how do you look at it? Because we are not talking about today. Maybe after 15 years, we'll all move through a Hyperloop. And if things come to that level, your views.
Thank you for your question, most interesting question. See, transportation at the end, what is transportation? Transportation is just like a bridge. It connects one point to the other. Where a product is manufactured at one point, it has to be delivered at another point. A person wants to go from Delhi to Howrah, so he boards a train. Transportation per se, the demand for transportation comes out of economic activity. So we say that the demand for transportation is a derived demand. It is derived out of economic activity. If a steel plant closes down, then the transportation of that railway is no longer required. Or if a steel plant comes up, then the transportation is required. Now what is happening is that it is universally agreed that the demand for transportation with respect to gross domestic product is about 1.2, 1.3, estimates vary, let us take it as 1.2. So if the economy grows at 8%, then the demand for transportation grows at 9.5 to 10%. So a 10% growth in the demand for transportation is a huge number. It is a huge number because it requires a level of transportation which we are not capable of. Now the railway is growing at an average rate of 4.5% or so. The rest of the road is growing at a faster rate, but both the rail network, the road network are thoroughly congested. Plus now with the integration of international commerce, the movement to and from the ports has increased manifold. India, for example, is sitting on 300 years of coal supply. We are importing about 40 million tons of coal, which has to be moved from port to the power stations and the steel plants. So, and this demand pattern keeps changing. So the need for increase of rail and road connectivity cannot be overemphasized. It is huge. The railway network has not grown as much as it should have. The road network has also not grown as much as it should have, but fortunately the road network has grown very fast. Very, very fast, and now the government is investing very heavily in infrastructure, which is why the railway network and road network is expected to grow. Now, as far as high-speed transportation is concerned, high-speed transportation relates only to passenger transportation. It does not relate to freight transportation at all. You have a bullet train project. The train will travel. I have had the good fortune of traveling in bullet trains both in Europe and in Japan. It travels at 350, 360 kilometers an hour. But it requires a totally dedicated track with no level crossings, with fencing on both sides. And the entire movement is controlled by a central control, which keeps on telling the driver what to do. That, look, you go another 5 kilometers, you will encounter a signal which will say this, so therefore slow down to this speed. You are traveling at 350, please reduce to 300. Now, that is a hugely data-intensive and capital-intensive project. It is good that India has a bullet train project right now, because after all, we are the 4th largest network in the world, and in terms of passenger movement, we are the largest, because we transport the entire population of Australia every day from one place to the other. And we are moving, last year we moved 1,592 million tons of traffic. Okay, so this amount of traffic moving on the same track is not available anywhere else in the world. Everywhere else in the developed railways where the railways are large, the trains move on, freight trains move on dedicated tracks. Therefore, the need for dedicated freight corridor, and now we have 2 dedicated freight corridors, some more are in the offing. When the dedicated freight corridor comes, the transit time will reduce drastically, and therefore the overall economics will improve. The unit cost of transportation will go down. With that, the logistics cost will also go down. The issue of sustainability. Railway is at least 5 times as energy efficient as road. And if you take the weight of one truck as 10 tons, one coal train is equal to 400 trucks. Okay, so imagine 400 trucks going down a national highway and one railway train zipping by. It makes a lot of difference. Your energy use is less, and you are importing oil, so therefore railway has gone in for electrification, 100% electrification, because you generate electricity within the country. So it is more energy efficient and it is economically more friendly to the economy as a whole. So therefore the need to expand railway network and expand railway movement. As far as supply chain 5.0 is concerned, railway store budget, the procurement budget for the railway, when I was in the railway, it used to be something like 40,000 crores. I think it should be 80,000 or 1 lakh crore by now. And so many products. It is a myriad of products which will boggle the imagination. Now imagine a locomotive which is running, it's homed at Howrah, for example. After a certain period of time, it has to come back to Howrah because that is the mother shed. With SCM, it need not. Because the spares that it requires may be available any shed anywhere in the country. Similarly for wagons, a freight wagon which runs 10,000 kilometers comes back to its mother shed. Now with a perfect SCM, it need not come back. It can be tackled anywhere in India. So therefore that empty movement, that infructuous movement which takes place that will reduce. So there is a huge scope. There is a huge scope for supply chain management and sustainability in the railways because it is more environment friendly, and as far as customer service is concerned, railway started the passenger reservation system way back in 1986. And right now the passenger reservation system has gone ahead and by leaps and bounds. You don't have to go anywhere. On your mobile you can book a ticket, show that mobile to the ticket checker on the train, and that's it. You don't need to queue up or do anything. Similarly, the freight operation information system, the entire track maintenance system, locomotive maintenance system, everything is computerized. Everything is computerized, but yes, is there a scope for improvement? There is. There is plenty of scope for improvement. And with SCM 5.0, I am quite sure that things will go to a different level altogether. And that is why the logistics department in the Ministry of Commerce, and that is why the integration of data, and that is why the dashboard in the Ministry of Railways. Thank you.
We see a lot of hope for us. And now coming back to Mr. Chatterjee, I think, can you change a little track? Because time is short, we want to close it early. So again, I give you a free scope. Can you talk about the industry and institute relationship? How you look at it as a chief executives, as a senior people? What is the demand? Because that is the message I want to carry it forward.
Hello, yeah. In fact, quite naturally, we need a lot of professionals, which we are taking from the different institutes, pan-India. We also want to take up a lot of projects, some of which we have already started with Jadavpur University. Quite naturally, they are here. One project with IIT Kharagpur. We think that there are a lot of projects which we would like to work upon where the institutes can be of immense help for us. So I think in an industry like us, and looking at the long-term future, I think there's a lot of scope for such joint projects. I'm not talking about the general management consultancy, which we are taking from some of the people like McKinsey and BCG, and also their institutes. But I think with the educational institutes, particularly the technical ones, there is substantial scope between the industry and the institutes.
I think professors who are from the university, they will love to have you visit us at your time. And coming back to Mr. Chatterjee, one thing is, again, I'd like to know it because you are working on it, is how ready the people are. When you see a graduate engineer or a graduate physics or chemist, whatever the postgraduate, how ready they are. I'm not talking about the MBA, I'm only talking about the core engineering or science graduates.
I think definitely the raw material is there. Naturally, their curriculum, I am not very much aware what is the current curriculum, but I think some of the boys whom we have taken, we found they have done very good internship with some of the industries. And I found them, they are extremely customized to specific needs and they are absolutely ready. Otherwise, normally in all good industries, they have a very long-term professional grooming program by which we can see that very quickly these people come into the system and start contributing in a significant manner.
Okay, thank you. I have a different idea. I'll go back to Mr. Chatterjee, Mr. Gupta, Dr. Gupta. See, when I was working in the industry long time back, we want to prepare the student or the new recruit for us going through a kind of an induction program and going through a kind of, making them ready for my industry. Now, how you, because you wanted to touch on this particular area, how you think? Because it's a waste of time for the industry. So, do we need to have some kind of ready-to-make intermediary? Because supply chain. After all, you need a finished product. I'm creating a raw material from the university. Do you need some kind of finishing school which is the concept? As a finishing school, or do you think, no, it is a waste of time? Why you go into a finishing school? So what is your idea on this?
It is again people and process, combination of people and process will yield the result, the desired result. So we can have the technology, we can have process, ultimately it will be driven by the people. So whether the industry is ready with the workforce, will be driving so-called Industry 5.0. So it is something the future workforce, the engineering institute or even management institute, currently this operation is already started. It is not so that from this forum people will start thinking, it is not that, it is already started. Earlier days in our time, we used to have a very specific, say, mechanical engineer, civil engineer, electrical engineer, and so on. But each and every stream, they have got a customized industrial friendly, industrial ready, workforce ready. So from the institute, they have got a collaborative approach in line with the industry. So suppose we are discussing with some of the institute. So we have explained what is our customized expectation from that institute. So to be very specific, instead of telling a very goody hypothetical word, I don't know how to relate with the people who is not from the background of engineering. For a common understanding, earlier days we used to have the drawing. Drawing used to be the language of the engineers. So if you have to install something, you need to have the drawing in place. So based on the drawing means your concept, how you just get your plan to be ready or your expectation to be ready. So earlier days, the drawing in a hard copy, which is used to be a 2D model, nowadays 3D modeling is unavoidable. The purpose of 3D model, if we just divide ourselves based on the competency, the old engineers, they used to say, I am very skillful, I can efficiently install a particular project based on the 2D model drawing is available with me. But the problem is, currently, if you just take from the reference of the statistics, earlier days we used to have the project implementation time for a period of 5 years, 6 years, or even 7 years. Nowadays, hardly the allowable time, the contractual time given by the customer is 2 years or less than 2 years. So how with the magnitude, the similar magnitude could be possible? Supply chain definitely one of the aspect. And supply chain, if we just consider the supply chain, we need to understand what is the planning, what is the requirement, what is the material to be required. This planning part will come from the engineering. So engineering, to eliminate the scope repair and rework, which is cost in terms of the repair cost as well as the time. Time is again money. So from the 3D modeling, it will going to give us a template, the chances of error, hardly anything. There could be a multidiscipline things. There could be a lot of cross-functional things. So by the journey of this 3D modeling, people can emulate the scope of things. So if we think, as per the earlier practice, which the college people, they used to do, the AutoCAD simple 2D modeling will just do these things. So currently, in their course, they used to have this 3D model, whether it is through Tekla or whether it is BIM. Even for the building management system, there are software. So I'm giving a very specific example. There are a lot of examples. I think Mr. Pal Chaudhary can add something. So this way, this should be the concept, how our expectation, what we are expecting from the institute, that we have to explain. Otherwise, after taking up people, if we just conclude the skill is not up to ready to the extent of my expectation, it is our responsibility how effectively we can communicate to the institute so that they can make ready their future foundation for the industry we are aiming at. Thank you.
Mr. Palchuri, I will have a different question to you. See, you talked about security. We talked about how data security and all those things. When we visited a refinery, if you look at that, and today the refinery system is going to a sea change because of hazardous situation there. So now they are doing a biometric validation of the people entering any particular zone, particular area of operation. Do you think it is all happening in the Western world? Do you think in India, are we going to implement such thing, or it is quite some time from now to see those kind of implementation and de-risking ourselves from the unauthorized access to the plant, unauthorized access to area of hazards?
So the answer is actually, Professor earlier had talked about the hardware software thing. Now the hardware cost is dropping drastically. Things are getting very miniaturized, and at the same time, the data that can get stored anywhere, it's expanding at a phenomenal pace. So petabytes and all of that is happening out there. So the answer to your question is that it is not only will happen, it is already happening, because just last Sunday, I was actually at the institute, because that is Engineers Day, Dr. Vishwasharayya's birthday. So I was at an event at Institute of Engineers, where Mr. Yatish Kumar, who is Railways, earlier he was actually CMD of Braithwaite. Now he's gone back to Railways and is actually managing the Lilua shop. So he actually was talking about the fact that there are 10,000 employees at the Lilua shop. Employees, workers, everything. So they are actually putting together a biometric access control for such a magnitude of people in Lilua shop. So it is not at all far cry. It is certainly very much in the offing, and an organization like Railways with its large network, if they are able to put such a thing in place, I'm sure that would be the kind of model that can be easily, I mean, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it definitely can be extrapolated to places with a large number of personnel, at the same time, very high degree of sensitivity. So you can build on different levels of access control, because once the data is in your control in terms of digital, you can actually say, okay, this person can go and have access to, let's say, the core, whatever the place where you are managing the flow control of the refinery, or somebody who can only be at a different area. So these things are possible and is happening.
Yeah, fine. I am quite happy to know that. But only thing is that word of caution. Is there any identity loss, identity theft? You said sheep can go from place A to B instead of go to A to C. Is there identity loss is a threat? Because we are running short. I don't want to take a long time. In a few words, I think we want to stop our panel discussion. We can take offline. So
Yes.
anything on identity loss?
I am once again going to go back to Professor, who used a fantastic terminology by saying the knife, when it is held in the hand of a surgeon, it is a life-saving device that you can do surgery with it. At the same time, if it is held in the hand of a murderer, it is a killer machine. So that is exactly what it is. So with all of this, the great possibility of fantastic things happening, but if it falls into disuse, if it is abused, if the person handling it goes rogue, as they say, then anything can happen. So it is very, very much important thing for us to make sure that we are building the checks and balances, have multiple people looking at it, have the right kind of, I think once again, I'll go back to what he said, the kind of intent. So maybe it is not about how technically skilled you are. What good are your value systems? Suppose I'm a super good artificial intelligence guy, but if my value system is that of a corrupt person, I'll use that to abuse others, get advantage. So I think we have to look and work harder in terms of making sure that the core values and the basic elements of humanity is taken into consideration, and that is how the technology will go to the next level.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to add regarding this security thing. See, when you are handling big data like the railways does, it's imperative that you have security. So therefore, the railway has a separate organization which takes care of the entire communication network of the railways. Okay? Because we are dealing with a lot of sensitive movement also, which nobody should come to know. Okay? So there is an organization called RailTel, which takes care of the entire, they have optic fiber cables all over the country. They take care of that. As far as security is concerned, there are two things. One is then on a workshop environment, a loco shed, a wagon maintenance depot, or an administrative office. The other is the open line. You have 68,000 kilometers of open line. Now you must have been reading reports in the newspaper about attempts to sabotage trains. Now how do you patrol 68,000 kilometers of track? So the obvious solution is again information technology. You can employ drones or even satellite imagery to take care of this kind of, rogue elements which are trying to disrupt the lifeline of the nation. So that is what I just wanted to flag that issue.
Yeah, I know that we are running short of time, but given the fact that he's touched upon drones and the fact that you're talking about what can institutes, etc. do, I think tremendous opportunities for institutes to encourage startups. Because the fresh minds in the colleges, they can think of things which people like us who are already jaded and who are invested so much in the existing cannot think of. So I think there's a massive opportunity for institutes to build up their students through startups, and of course the industry academia collaboration will happen, but that can be a good vehicle for collaboration.
I think we'll take it offline during lunch, tea break or lunch break or whatever break we can have. So we are running short of time. Thank you very much. I think we could have continued for more and more hours over a cup of tea, but we are running short of time and we are closing this session. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Okay, lot of thanks to all our dignitaries on the dais for such a valuable deliberation on their side, and also lot of thanks to Mr. Abhijit Mitra for conducting the session so nicely. Now, there are two dignitaries, new dignitaries on the dais, Dr. Pinaki Dattagupta and Mr. Indranil Chatterjee. So I request Mrs. Mithu Singhorai and Mrs. Shubha Mukhopadhyay to felicitate the dignitaries with a memento. And also I will request them to felicitate Mr. Abhijit Mitra, the chairman of this session.
I claimed it.
Mr. Indranil Chatterjee. Dr. Pinaki Dattarai. Mr. Abhijit Mitra.
Thank you.
This is the end of this session. The next session will start now. Technical session 1 on sustainability, key component of SCM 5.0.